There is currently a huge problem in Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm talking about cheating, exploits, and a lot more going on with the game, to the point where not only Capcom released a brand new patch with this hotfix addressing some of these problems and being around 1 GB of size, but they have also made a bunch of posts addressing how they're going to be tackling all of this, the changes that we might be seeing in the game in regards to how the rewards are distributed, what things are allowed in the game and what things are not allowed, and how some players might even end up being banned. This has become a huge hot topic in the community right now, so in today's video that is what we're going to be talking about. So with that, hello everyone, my name is Dark Hero and let's get started. So first things first, Capcom released a small hotfix update to Monster Hunter Wilds, and as I said before, it's approximately 1 GB with the intention of addressing bug fixes and trying to solve some exploits as well. Now, one big problem that people were having once Title Update 1 released was that whenever they spoke to Nada and selected the specific option Seka from Nada's Village intermediary item trade, they would sometimes cause the game to crash, but that has now been fixed. And they've also fixed an issue where the game would occasionally crash when fighting Zoshia, which of course was a huge set piece as a big part of the Title Update 1, so that was a huge issue, so I'm glad that they have fixed that. To this day there are still lots of people farming Zoshia, so it's good to see that they are fixing this. Now this is where things get actually interesting. There was apparently an exploit where players were able to go into the arena quests with their own power charm and armor charm, and it would allow them to retain the benefit of having those items in the arena quests, which of course is not something that is intended. You're supposed to only play with the items and the loadouts that they give you as a way to normalize the challenge and make it fair for everyone, so that people don't come in with different decorations, much better skills and loadouts, etc, etc. So not only would this allow you to have better stats essentially by having these two items, but it would also create duplicates of them in your item pouch, which would not actually stack the effect of the item, but it's something that actually happened as a bug. But a bigger exploit that people were intentionally using was the bug that allowed players to bring their own armor and weapons into the arena quests and challenge quests, and that even includes the decorations and the talismans, and I think even the mantles. And this goes even further than that, as people were also able to go in with the Palico support moves, Spornet Song of Power and Spornet Song of Purification into those same arena quests and challenge quests, which would of course give them a huge advantage over everyone else, allowing them to claim some ridiculously fast times, as those challenges were not made with that type of armor and weapons in mind, and therefore they were able to claim the high spots on the leaderboard and essentially cheat their way into the top. Something that is going to be a common occurrence, as you'll see throughout the video, because there was also another exploit that allowed players to bring in certain skill effects into the training area, arena quests, and challenge quests. This was actually something that was around when the game first released, and there were some speedrunners abusing it, and that is how some of them got some ridiculously fast clear times in the first week or the first 2 weeks of the game. Basically, they would be able to go into the training area, and by talking to the Palico that is there, they would be able to activate certain skills like Agitator, Heroics, the Frenzy Virus, Latent Power. They would be able to activate pretty much as many skills as they wanted, and if I'm not mistaken, if they quit out of the training area right then and there, and then log back into the game, they would be able to retain all of those buffs permanently, which would of course give you a huge advantage and therefore allow you to get some pretty fantastic clear times, and it's something that was not intended. Now, the rest of these issues aren't as important in my opinion, like for example they fixed an issue where the arena quests and challenge quest completion times would occasionally register incorrectly in the rankings. I guess it would be bad if you did well and the game would tell you that you had a bad time, but given how easy it is to achieve an A rank in the arenas, if you really wanted to get those clears you would be able to normally, and apart from a certain bug that would sometimes prevent players from actually progressing through the story at certain points, which apparently had to do with a Palico bed that was set up at camp, and we also had an issue like this that was fixed in the previous patch. The rest of these are all minor things, but as you can see, a big part of this patch was dedicated to essentially fixing exploits and people cheating, because if you have stepped foot into the Gathering Hub and checked the arena leaderboards, then you will have noticed just how many players have cheated their way into the top ranks, having some absurdly fast clear times that are just practically impossible, with some of them being blatantly cheating by having a clear time of 2 or 3 seconds, which is of course impossible. The exploits that I mentioned before and were addressed in this patch would of course not allow you to clear the quests that quickly, though it is still important to fix these exploits. So of course the answer to all of these times, how people are able to do these quests this quickly is the obvious statement: a lot of players are cheating in Monster Hunter Wilds. So much so that Capcom has gone out of their way to post not once, not twice, but 3 different times on Twitter about this. And while I do appreciate what they are saying about cheaters and how they are going to be handling them, I do have some big concerns about this, as it might result in some unintended bans, and it could even be me, to be honest. So let's go over into that. Hunters, we have some important changes to challenge quest rewards. To provide all hunters a reasonable and fair opportunity to obtain the event rewards for the ongoing challenge quest, Doshaguma of the Hollow, we are making the changes as described in the image below. Going forward, the future challenge quests and free challenge quests will not include rewards that require specific leaderboard rankings. Rankings on the expedition record board will continue to be viewable as usual. Stay tuned for updates on future event rewards to come. We appreciate your patience and understanding, and thank our hunters who participated with the goal of earning rewards and those who shared their feedback. We hope you have fun setting your best times possible in these quests. And as you can see from the image on screen, basically the way they had this set up, in case you didn't participate in the arena quests, was you would be rewarded with 3 different pendants, one for reaching the A rank timer and a final pendant for placing among the top 10,000 players on the ranking of the leaderboards. Now of course this would make the final pendant something a little bit more exclusive. It was still quite manageable to reach the top 10,000 and claim that pendant, which by the way is a very simple pendant. They have much better pendants that you can equip without even going into the paid ones, but of course some players were worried that they were going to be missing out on this because there were so many people cheating. Now truth be told, I believe that most cheaters don't even care about the pendant, because if they are already cheating, they likely also play with mods, which enable them to have a lot more customization than you can normally in the game, and therefore they can add pretty much anything they want as a pendant. I believe back in Monster Hunter World there was even a mod that allowed you to add any GIF or PNG you wanted as a pendant, and we might have the same thing in Wilds, and if we don't, we're likely going to have that in the future. But obviously Capcom saw that a lot of people were cheating, people were going to be missing out on getting that pendant that they had worked and were going to earn rightfully, so they decided to abolish that system, which is something that I kind of saw coming, considering that whenever this was revealed, everyone in the community pretty much reacted the same way, knowing that making something exclusive to the top ranking members in a Monster Hunter game where there's a lot of cheating in the arenas as always, it's not something that was going to work out too well. And again, people have been doing this cheating for a long time. I'm not sure how it was back in the 3DS era, as I always played by myself, but at least as far as I can remember, since the very beginning of Monster Hunter World, there have been people cheating in the arena leaderboards, even on PlayStation before the game released on PC, and there were no rewards for doing that before. People were just cheating for the love of the game. And that leads me to Capcom's next post, which is even more important, and this one starts out in a pretty strong way. Hammer emoji, our action against cheaters, hammer emoji. Oh boy, the ban hammer is coming. The challenge quest Doshaguma of the Hollow has ended today. The final ranking results for this quest will be confirmed during a 1 to 2 week review period from today. Event rewards will be distributed after any fraudulent clear times have been investigated and excluded. Once the review period is complete, we will announce it on our accounts. In addition to judging based on clear times, we will also conduct our own investigations and take appropriate measures. When we exclude the fraudulent clear times, we will also place restrictions on those accounts. The user's clear time will not be registered in the rankings from that point, and they will not receive the event rewards. In addition, we have already taken and will continue to take action to ban accounts that our reviews have found to be cheating. Furthermore, if you are certain that a player is performing a prohibited action, please report them. To report the player, navigate to their hunter profile screen and select report. And then they go on to show you this table that contains some additional information. And this is where it gets tricky, because it kind of addresses mods by talking about unauthorized data modification. We have confirmed the unauthorized modification of game data in Monster Hunter Wilds for high rank environment investigations, field surveys, and more. Modified data can interfere with normal gameplay and even render the game unplayable. If you suspect a quest has been modified, please do not play it or stop playing it immediately. This was actually something that was tweeted out, and I even addressed in one of my previous videos, all the way back in Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, where a lot of people were modifying quests, specifically the anomaly investigations, as they were a huge part of the endgame of Sunbreak, and people were doing it to get specific monsters to spawn as part of the anomaly investigations, so much so that Capcom pretty much said the same thing here. Now what's new is everything else that they have to show us, where they have this big table referring to the following criteria that they use to identify modified data, and it just basically gives you the parameters for what the game would consider a quote-unquote legal quest, as all of the quests in the game only go from 1 to 2 monsters. They have a reward limit of 5 for 1 target monster, or a max of 10 for 2 target monsters, etc, etc. Now it's kind of a shame that we only have quests that have either 1 or 2 monsters in them. I've seen videos on YouTube of other players doing these modified quests where they have 5 different monsters in the arena, and it does look like a lot of fun. So I kind of miss those epic quests with a lot of monsters, like for example that very epic and iconic quest in Monster Hunter World where you have to hunt a tempered Kushala, Teostra and Nergigante. Now they also go on to mention that they cannot individually determine whether a specific quest has been modified, so you should consult this table or memorize it if you're joining online quests to know if that quest has been modified, as joining these quests can have the unintended result of you losing your save data, corrupting it, whatever it might be, and of course Capcom do not hold themselves responsible for that. Now going into the mods, expanded countermeasures against unauthorized data modification. We plan to implement additional countermeasures in the future updates to detect users who have engaged in unauthorized modification of game data to prevent other players from being implicated in such actions. And they also mentioned that whenever you're playing Monster Hunter Wilds, you need to take into account the end user license agreement or the EULA, and that Capcom is within their own right to ban you if they see you as having violated their end user agreement, or if they see evidence of fraudulent activity. Finally, we urge all players to refrain from engaging in fraudulent activities. We appreciate your cooperation and understanding for ensuring that everyone can enjoy this game fairly, from the Monster Hunter Wilds development team. All of that to say that it looks like Capcom is going to be cracking in on the cheating even more than before, which doesn't really surprise me. The game does have an anti-cheat software after all. It does also have the Nuvo, and these things weren't really being used before, so I guess they're going to be using them and banning people that cheat in the leaderboards. But I hope that they don't go too hard and end up banning people that mod the game. I have since wiped the data of any mod that I have, as I usually do before any title update releases, but that mod essentially allowed me to add any monster into the arena that I wanted. And when I say arena, I mean the Wounded Hollow back before we didn't have any arena quests. Again, this was before title update 1, and I would be able to fight against a tempered Uthuna or a tempered Reidao, or both even, in the Wounded Hollow. And that was pretty fun, to be honest. I like that type of ability that you can only have by having mods. I also have mods that allow you to add layered weapons, which we currently don't have in the game. If you are watching the gameplay in the background, you'll often see that I'm using weapons that don't have paralysis, but they are applying paralysis. That's because I'm using layered weapons. I also use a mod that allows me to get some better camera distance. I use reshade to get a few more vibrant colors on the game. It's mostly cosmetic stuff, as I usually don't like to change anything that has to do with the game's balance. I like to keep it pretty vanilla in that regard, but if I have the ability, for example, to add a Minecraft pickaxe or the Monobloss greatsword into the game, I will be doing that because I think that it's fun. I'm personally someone that always enjoys using mods to get even more enjoyment out of the games that I love. This is something that I've done with Skyrim, Baldur's Gate, Darkest Dungeon, pretty much any game that I love and play extensively. I will be adding a couple of mods without changing the essence of the game, but just to get even more enjoyment out of it. And I think it would be a huge shame if Capcom would end up shutting down all of that. And you know, if they end up banning people from playing online and they would still be able to play offline, it currently wouldn't be the biggest problem because we don't have any kind of big multiplayer quests, but we're likely going to be getting a siege quest sometime in the future, and it would really suck to not be able to play that because you have a couple of mods installed in the game and you would be banned because Capcom has gone too far because of a lot of cheaters. So yeah, ultimately it does suck that cheaters always end up ruining things for everyone, but fingers crossed that it might not get that far and that Capcom is able to ban all of the cheaters without getting anyone hit in the crossfire that is not intended. The topic of mods and cheating is always a huge thing in the community. There's always a lot of people that are against it, and I do understand that a large portion of the community is on PlayStation and Xbox, and naturally they don't have access to all of these mods, but I do want to know what you all think about this. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. My name is Dark Hero, and as always, happy hunting.